In a quiet neighborhood on Charlotte Street in Kansas City, Missouri, an ordinary-looking house concealed unspeakable horrors. The home of Robert Berdella, a seemingly harmless businessman, held dark secrets that would take years to uncover. He was known for his flea market antique shop, an eccentric figure to those who met him. But behind closed doors, he meticulously documented a reign of terror that would make him one of the most sadistic killers in American history. His method was disturbingly methodical. He lured young men into his home, drugged them, and kept them captive for days or even weeks. Each moment of suffering was carefully recorded as if he were conducting a twisted experiment. His first known victim was Jerry Howell, the son of a fellow vendor. Jerry had mocked Berdella in the past, but over time, Berdella earned his trust. On July 5, 1984, Berdella offered Jerry a ride to a dance contest, but the trip took a sinister turn. Berdella spiked Jerry's drink, ensuring he was too weak to resist. For 28 agonizing hours, Jerry was bound and subjected to relentless torture. He begged for his life, asking why this was happening. Berdella ignored his pleas. Eventually, Jerry succumbed to the abuse. Berdella later claimed it was an accident, but if that were true, why did he continue? Instead of remorse, he disposed of Jerry's body in trash bags and moved on to his next victim. Months later, in April 1985, Robert Sheldon, a drifter who had stayed at Berdella's home before, came knocking, looking for shelter. Berdella saw an opportunity. He drugged Sheldon and restrained him, but when a roofer arrived unexpectedly, he decided to kill him early, suffocating him with a plastic bag. In June 1985, Mark Wallace, who had once done yard work for Berdella, sought shelter from a storm. Berdella invited him inside, offering him a tranquilizer to help him relax. Wallace was kept captive for nearly a day, subjected to excruciating torture. Berdella viewed him not as a human being, but as an experiment. James Ferris was just like so many others, young, hopeful, unaware of the danger ahead. He had met Berdella before, but this time, the invitation into the house on Charlotte Street would be his last. As the door closed behind him, James had no idea he had just entered a nightmare. Before he could react, the drugs took effect. The room around him faded, and soon he was bound and helpless. Berdella wasted no time. He had perfected his methods, injecting sedatives, documenting his experiments, recording every moment of suffering. For days, James Ferris remained trapped, reduced to a test subject in a twisted game of control. By the fifth day, James could barely speak. His body weakened, his spirit shattered. But Berdella didn't stop. His experiments became more brutal, pushing the limits of what the human body could endure. Todd Stoops was no stranger to hardship. Homeless and desperate, he saw Berdella as a lifeline, someone offering shelter, food, maybe even a second chance. But in reality, he had just walked into the depths of hell. Berdella welcomed him inside with a smile. The house, eerily quiet, held secrets buried beneath its walls. As Todd crossed the threshold, the door closed behind him, sealing his fate. Within hours, Todd was bound and at Berdella's mercy. The experiments grew even crueler, psychological torment mixed with physical pain. Berdella wanted control, and Todd had no way to escape. Days turned into weeks. The walls closed in. Todd, once full of defiance, was now a broken shell of himself. Every cry, every plea, fell on deaf ears. Berdella's house had consumed another soul. No one came looking for Todd, no police report, no missing persons flyer. When his body finally gave out, Berdella didn't mourn. He simply disposed of him like the others before. Larry Pearson had no reason to suspect anything when Berdella invited him over. They had met before. Small talk, over coffee, nothing alarming, but Berdella was always hunting, always waiting for the next victim. The moment Larry stepped inside, the door locked behind him. The room was suffocating, the silence deafening. He had unknowingly entered a place where few ever escaped. Berdella's methods evolved. It wasn't just physical torment, It was psychological warfare. He taunted Larry, stripped him of his identity, made him believe that resistance was futile. Larry's mind raced. The stories he had heard about missing men, were they true? The fear in his eyes grew as he realized the answer. He wasn't going to leave this house alive. He begged for mercy, but there was none to give. Berdella had no interest in empathy, only control, only submission. Every plea was met with silence, every struggle met with punishment. After weeks of torment, Larry no longer fought back. His will had been broken, his mind lost in the darkness that surrounded him. The man he once was had disappeared, swallowed by the abyss. Trapped in the basement, Larry barely clung to life. The mattress on the floor was his final resting place, a cruel ending to a life that had once held so much promise, and then, the final moment. Berdella entered the room, his shadow stretching across the floor. Larry knew it was over. The walls had witnessed another horror, another life stolen. The final act of brutality was carried out without hesitation. Berdella had no remorse, no hesitation. Larry Pearson's suffering had come to an end, but his story, like the others, would be hidden for years. Christopher Bryson, a male sex worker, became Berdella's final victim in March 1988, but unlike the others, he found a way to fight back. After days of torment, Bryson burned through his bindings and leapt from a second-floor window, breaking his foot upon landing. He ran for his life, wearing nothing but a dog collar. A meter reader spotted him and called the police. When officers raided Berdella's home, they uncovered a house of horrors, hundreds of photographs, torture logs, and human remains. In 2003, new evidence suggested Berdella had killed more than 6 men. A hidden notebook contained names that had never been identified before. The discovery of an old Polaroid revealed one final undeniable truth. Robert Berdella's true victim count may never be known. Evil often hides in plain sight, but the fight for justice never ends. For every victim lost, there will always be those who refuse to let them be forgotten.